with that, this is our last presentation before we take our break. MEL, whenever you'd like, you can start sharing your slides. Perfect. And yeah, you should definitely know this question's coming by now, but okay, so I feel like I can guess what you're gonna be intentional about, but maybe I'll be wrong. But what are you gonna be intentional about in your presentation?
Yeah, Harrison, we talked about this before, but I really want to be intentional about getting to the point, about being brief and not, and only getting to what's most important.
Yeah, and even right now, as you're just talking, I can already feel you're going fast, and I know you're worried about that. It's just like take a breath. It's okay. Just like our last presentation, we got to make sure we understand it. That's like a key, right? So just take it easy, and you'll do great. Okay, whenever you want to get started, you're good.
Yeah, great. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to pitch in front of you all. My name is Amiel, I'm 16, and I'm really interested in the intersection of biology and technology. In these last months at TKS, Mansi, Tenzin, Ashley, and I have applied AI to everything from facial recognition to connectomics, from drug discovery to heart disease classification. The website you see right here is one I stumbled across when I was researching for this moonshot. It compiles stories of people who have donated and received organs, and it's super inspiring. I highly recommend giving it a read if you're ever feeling sad. I swear it cheers me up. But a particular story that stood out to me was Caleb's. He received a kidney from his mom after being on dialysis for 2 whole years. As a result, he was able to live a more fulfilling life. But not everyone receives an organ in time, and this is because of the organ shortage crisis. Every 9 minutes, so maybe even by the end of this presentation, another name will be added to the organ transplant waiting list. And on average, 20 eligible patients die every day in the United States from the lack of available organs. And around the world, the demand for suitable organs far exceeds supply. But if we want to overcome the organ shortage crisis, relying on human organs and organ donors and harvesting organs from humans is not enough. We need to look elsewhere, specifically to 3D bioprinting. Think of lab-grown meats, but instead we're growing organs. Similar to 3D printing, bioprinting is an approach in which 3D objects are built from digital files. But unlike 3D printing, bioprinters print with cells and biomaterials to create organ-like structures that allow living cells to grow and multiply. We're focusing on the bioink, which are the filaments of 3D bioprinters. They must provide a desirable environment for cells to allow them to grow, as well as meet printing requirements through their mechanical and rheological properties. You can think of bioinks like using a soundboard. Every switch, dial, and knob influences the sound produced, so it's nearly impossible to perform the individual experiments for an infinite number of bioinks. This is where Vitality, the first of its kind research and development company, will pioneer predictive tissue engineering. We're accelerating the development of optimal bioinks that promote specific biological and functions and processes using decision tree classifiers. So we'll be able to reduce the cost and efforts of developing bioinks and thus bringing the reality of lab-grown organs closer to fruition. We're predicting the impact of bioink formulations on the viability and biological processes of printed tissues. So we're looking at angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels from existing ones. And we have a 4-step pipeline. The first being formulating the bioinks. We need cells, polymers, which are biomaterials, and crosslinkers. To really formulate a wide array of bioinks, we'll be using collagen, elastin, matrigel, fibrin, hyaluronic acid, and many more biomaterials that will allow us to really experiment with at the next step, which is bioprinting the tissues. We'll be printing multiple vascularized models and tissues with distinct processes and properties using extrusion-based bioprinters. So the different biomaterials will cause specific physical and biochemical signals that will allow the vessels to sprout and split in different ways during angiogenesis. And the third step will be determining their properties. To quantitatively assess them, we can, for example, count the number of blood vessels and their length, caliber, or density, or we can observe cell cycle progression to also measure angiogenesis in printed tissues. We'll be running many assays and tests to identify pro and anti-angiogenic agents and factors, and thus quantify the complex process, which is angiogenesis. The quantitative data we'll have obtained will be used to train our machine learning model. As mentioned, we'll be using decision tree classifiers to compare the biological function of printed tissues. So we'll be using decision trees because they're highly interpretable and can run on limited data. Bioink formulations and bioprinting parameters will impact the success and viability of constructs, but we want to know how and why. We'll uncover the relationships between bioink ingredients and components and biological performance of printed tissues. So Vitality is pioneering predictive tissue engineering. Our platform is meant to develop, evaluate, and optimize bioinks to find the ones that promote biological processes. We hope to apply this to a wide array of biological processes and properties to be able to do more than shoot in the dark, as we currently do with bioinks.
Okay, Amiel, so got it under time. You still were going quite fast, but it wasn't the overall goal, was just to make it under 5 minutes, but you managed to do it, although I know you had to speed through it. Regardless, well done. And yeah, does anyone have a first question for us here?
If it's okay, I'll start. One, amazing work, really great job with the analogies and simplifying it. I understood at the beginning, I kind of lost you at some point, so I just want to make sure I understand correctly exactly what you're going to do. So I understand the problem, and it's a great position. There's not enough organs for people who need them. Printing them is the solution. Sounds awesome and amazing, and hopefully will be one day reality. What do you do in that process? Do you print them? Do you provide the ink? Are you the platform? Are you the printer? Are you technology? What exactly, if there's a value chain, where do you play?
Right. So the process of bioprinting can be summarized in 3 steps. So there would be pre-bioprinting, the bioprinting of the tissues, and then post-bioprinting. We're focusing on the pre-bioprinting, so before even building the tissues, but knowing that the bioinks we're using will allow certain biological processes and biological function of the desired tissue to occur. So if we're printing a vascularized tissue, we'll just be able to know that the bioinks we're developing will promote vascularization or in the tissue.
And is bioprinting a thing today? Is it something that as research invested and people are doing?
Yes, a bunch of people are really looking into it. We have only implanted 1 bioprinted organ so far, but a lot of work is being done.
Yeah, so I would tell the story like this. The first one has been done. This is the process. Here where it sucks, and this is what we're going to fix. Just to simplify it for us. And I think that can be really powerful, because just for me, listen to this, I'm not from the space. I don't know if this is a thing, but maybe billions of dollars have been invested in this, and there's one specific problem that can accelerate everything, and that's what you do.
Yeah, I think this is a brilliant idea. I agree with your comments, Laurent. To me, this almost sounds like Atomwise for bioprinting. And you know what I would what got me excited about it, and what I encourage you to focus on next time in the pitch is that it strikes me that you're a software layer that expedites the rate of innovation in bioprinting. And there's some story to tell here about how costly it is to print organs today, or print the right organs, because we're limited by physical experimentation. And you're an AI software platform, it sounds like, that enables that innovation cycle to be accelerated, because you're simulating it. And I think that's just a very exciting future if I encapsulated it properly. And in terms of like a moonshot problem, printing organs is definitely in that universe for me.
Yeah, I'll add. I love the idea of 3D bioprinting organs for many use cases that we haven't even thought of so far. And I can imagine a day when we look back and say, could you believe that we relied on human donations of organs? And so that sounds like antiquated, what we do today after seeing your presentation. I have a simple question. Who's the customer for what you're doing?
Right. The great question. Right now, there are commercial bioprinters available. So that means people can actually just buy bioprinters and print certain tissues on their own. If they were to come to us and ask, I want I want my printed tissue, for example, to have this biological function. We would be able to optimize the bioinks, or recommend even the ones they should use to have a certain biological property in their printed tissue. Other clients beyond just the individual consumer could also be research institutions. We have talked to labs who have demonstrated an interest in using this, as well as other companies who are really working in developing these organs who may need better inks.
How do you create defensibility in the model?
Defensibility meaning like intellectual property.
Yeah. So how do you keep somebody from, for example, stealing the type of model and just distributing it again?
Right. I think the key advantage we'll be having, and this is also why I mentioned step 1 and 2, which is also like creating the data that we'll be training our model on, will be in the area that we do have information and we'll be able to print constructs that will be unique to us, and then that other companies won't be able to just take away and build or replicate the model of. And we do intend on licensing, getting patents to ensure that it is legal and that people can't just take our own data and model.
Can you do me a favor? Can you solve this before I die so they don't have to cut my kidney out, please?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, we've talked. Yeah, we've talked to experts, and the projections are pretty optimistic. Some of them say 10 to 20. Some
Okay,
40
I
to
got a shot.
50.
Okay.
Yeah, but see, this is why we're accelerating it. So we hope to change that timeline.